Okay, welcome everybody.
Yes.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We welcome our two new members. You might be not, you may not come back after today. Well, okay, so we're gonna go around the room and introduce ourselves. Start with you, Dustin.
Dustin Leverance, Post Media.
Marty, Reed Eric, Department of Correction. Ashley Dell, Department of Juvenile Corrections.
Jeff McEwen at River Police Department.
Anthony Dalger, Moscow Police Department.
Jan Bennett, Ada County Prosecutor, IPAA.
Terry Weldon, Legal Counsel for the Council.
Jeff Gardner, Bingham County Sheriff, Idaho Sheriff's Association.
Justin Williams, Chief of Enforcement for Idaho Department of Fish and Game.
Tracy Bastrich, Meridian Police Department, Icopa. Sheriff Sean Goff, Gooding County, ISA.
Elsie Woodward, Post. Jill Nichols, Post.
Sheriff Jason Davis, Lewis County, representing ISA.
Dan Smith with the post at OPR.
Sean Lethbridge with Posts. Jeremy Beard, Post.
Kevin Graham with post.
Ryan Beverly, Post.
Cassandra Thigpen with Post. Rhonda Wallace with Post.
Welcome, everybody. For you new guys, there's a card in front of you that has our mission and vision, our core values that we live by, because we do pretty good work here. We want to make sure that we keep everything straight here, so. Moving right along. Bulls Council, everybody had a chance to read the minutes? Make a motion, we accept the
Second.
minutes. Have a motion and second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So Tracy, hearing board.
Yeah, our meeting was pretty quick, 2 minutes. Yes. We just, approved some extensions for certifications.
We need a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
More discussion? Favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yep, motion carries. And the vote, adopt the recommendations of the meeting of the hearing board.
So moved.
Second. Oh.
A motion and second, any more discussion? Favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
Training Subcommittee, Ashley.
All right, so we had a healthy agenda for our last training subcommittee. There were a few things. There were some updates to the parole crime scene investigation. That was simplifying the content and tailoring it to patrol officers, adding more information about scene safety, protecting the scene and evidence as the first responder, how to handle an emergency medical response at the scene. Also added exercises that allowed students to review pictures of scenes and identify potential problems and evidence and things that are out of place that should be noted. More advanced content was removed about photographing and videoing the scene, sketching the scene, and investigative teams. So those were the updates to the parole crime scene investigation. There were some changes to detention class hours, adding practical exercises and changing emphasis. So changing the class hours from 3 hours to 4 hours, adding practical exercises for the students to practice classifying inmates using both the point additive and North Point decision tree. And then they took emphasis off the history of the classification system to focus more on why and how to classify. So those were the changes to the detention curriculum. And then probably the biggest piece that is going to require some additional discussion today was a proposal to switch to 2 patrol academies a year. So we have a whole bunch of post staff on hand to answer any questions that you have, but some of the pros would be to eliminate overlap between patrol and detention academies, reducing competition for classrooms, training spaces, and shared resources, improving instructor availability and schedule conflicts, reducing instructor and staffing costs, and lowering facility maintenance and operational expenses. Some of the cons are an increased class size, fewer academies a year, and the initial transition may require some adjustments to scheduling systems, coordination with facility coordinator and partner agencies, and an internal adaptation to new timelines and workflows. So I'm sure Post can answer some of those questions. I believe Sean was going to take it back to the sheriffs, and Anthony was going to take it back to the chiefs. And so I imagine they have some feedback for us all as well, but we're going to need to have some additional discussion on that here.
Thank you, Ashley. Did the chiefs have a chance to talk about?
Yeah, I got a little bit of feedback. One of the biggest concerns that was brought up is the potential for bottlenecking, because there are several agencies that are trying to switch over from hiring officers and getting them immediately in the field training program to getting them right after hiring to the academy. So this would affect that greatly. So I got quite a bit of feedback on that. And then some also feedback on concerns about the number of officers being able to be trained throughout the year, and even having larger class sizes, maybe having a degradation somehow, that degrading the level of training or whatnot. That was just some of the feedback that I got.
That's pretty much the same with sheriffs too. I personally don't see a problem with it, but not my decision, so. We go from here.
Any other discussion or questions for our guys?
Anyone guys that have any questions for these guys back here?
I don't know, Jill, if there's anything you want to add that I didn't cover, maybe to the level that you would cover it. I know that there are concerns just about number of instructions, or I'm sorry, number of instructors and some other operational concerns that you all have.
We're asking. So yes, there are one of our biggest issues that we're facing here, and we've kind of done this to ourselves with the approval of agency-run academies such as Meridian, Nampa, Ada County, Boise. All of those officers used to attend our academy here, as you guys know. And we had those instructors from those agencies teaching in our academies. Those agencies would often, they have a vested interest because they had students in our class. So they would send their instructors here to teach for our class, and they would foot the bill. They would pay their guys duty pay to be here. As we have progressed through the years of having these agency-run academies, those instructors have slowly started to fall off. And everybody's a little stingy with their people, rightly so. We have a very limited amount of officers left still instructing here, and they often require that they do it on their days off. So Post is paying for their instruction. As an example, we have a couple folks, one from Ada County that teaches our domestic violence class and her day off, and one from Nampa also that teaches EVOC and some Archon stuff. And they are like, my day off is Friday. And so we accommodate them because they're fantastic instructors. They always show up. And so we accommodate them. But there's only a couple of them. We accommodate them on a Friday. So that does take some finagling to get the schedule in the right flow to get those guys here. The other ones that we're getting are our 2- and 3-year officers. Post has always kind of prided itself on not allowing brand new instructors to teach here. We're not a training ground for new instructors. We've kind of had to set that aside because we don't have anybody that can come and instruct here. So I feel, and I think these guys can attribute to it, that the level of instruction that your people are getting in the academy here is not what it should be. We're also seeing an influx of folks from other states that we are having to tap into. I know Jan mentioned not long ago in a post-council meeting that there was some issues with some of the guys coming specifically from California that are teaching our guys bad stuff, our Idaho guys, because they do it different in California. So we're forced to have these instructors, these younger instructors, these folks from California teach for our class because we can't get anybody. If you can't have instructors teach, you don't have a class. My guys have stepped in and taught some of these classes. They can only teach so much because their job is to coordinate. Some of the other things that, you know, they're being paid what are we paying? $27.50 now an hour for these folks to instruct. And, you know, they make more money working. So they're not going to take a day off to come in here. The way that the academies are scheduled now is at any given time, whether we do it the way we are right now and have a detention and a patrol academy starting on the same day or not, they always overlap. We have the same cadre of instructors that are teaching for both academies. And quite frankly, they're starting to get burned out. And so they're stepping back. The model that we're proposing, we're not fighting for instructors. Right now, I know we're fighting a lot for instructors. Like one of the guys will book them for a detention class, therefore not making them available to teach other topics in the patrol class at the same time. And so we're struggling to find instructors to teach those topics. That's why we're proposing this 2 academy schedule, is mostly because of the instructors. The other stuff, facilities, that comes into play with instructors. We don't have dorm space to house our instructors, so we have to pay for hotels. As you know, everything's getting more and more expensive as we're going through there, and Post isn't getting any richer. So those are some of the reasons. Kevin, if you want to elaborate on some of those.
The other thing that this is going to eliminate on top of that, and I actually paid a little bit more attention to these 2 classes that just started, our detention and our patrol class, and we work constantly. The detention guy sent out all the invites just a little bit before I sent out the invites. So he was able to grab most of the instructors. Then when I'm coming looking for it, and some of the perfect examples are, there's only so many instructors that teach TAC-Med, but we also use them to grade scenarios. Detention had already grabbed them for scenarios. TAC-Med comes along, and I'm short on TAC-Med instructors. I need to have so many. Now they want to jump off of the detention scenarios and come do the TAC-Med. That's more of their expertise anyways. Some of them I just said, I'm sorry, I can't take you away from detention. You'll have to stay there and grade that scenario. I'll have to see if I can find TAC-Med instructors. Archon, with 2 academies starting, one of the other problems I have where the training is actually much worse at this point is I had 70 plus students between detention and patrol all sitting down in the gym because our PT program and our defensive tactics is all in the morning. And I get maybe 6 instructors to teach 70 to 80 students. I'm not even close to my instructor-student ratios. If I don't have to overlap them, if I only have a patrol class or only have a detention class, now I've got those same 6 instructors for between 30, 40, something like that, students. So now at least I've met my ratios, and they're going to get better training. I've been down there all week watching them. It's really hard for 5 or 6 instructors to show particular attention to each person when I've got 30 to 40 groups of students out there doing these techniques. We're missing stuff. And it really comes clear. We did our testing, and the testing was not that good this time. When we tested them, they passed, but it wasn't really where I'd like to see it at. And it's just because they're not getting that instructor attention. So that becomes very difficult. My core instructors, I am, like Jill said, I'm burning some of them out. I keep on calling them, and they're doing their best. They'll come up because I'm just out of instructors for this particular topic, and I've got to pull from them. Unfortunately, a lot of my instructors are also in-service instructors. So I'm struggling right now because there's a TAC-Med instructors course going on. So a lot of my instructors are over there teaching the tech med instructors. I've got a bunch of people that are in that instructor course. But example for today, I had to cancel a scenario during my scenario because I just ran out of graders. We sent out emails to everybody. I'm out of them. My only option is to cancel one of the scenarios. So they've got 5 instead of 6. But this is happening more and more. I started here 10 years ago. Our academies were 50 people when I got here because we had Ada, Boise, Nampa, Meridian. The most I had was 47 in a class. Usually classes ended up around 42 to 43, and we managed just fine. So if we're going back to 50, it's not much different than we were 10 years ago. We dropped down to 40 for a little while. We dropped down to 32 when COVID was around. I agree that a class of 32 is fantastic, but you know, we're not gonna see that. The classes over the last 3 classes for patrol have been 33. This class only had 28. The next class has only got 7 right now registered. Detention maxes out at 40 every time. There's already 37 in the next detention class compared to my 7 or 8 that are registered for the patrol class. So we are seeing a lot less patrol students coming here. They're going to CEI, the college programs, or the other satellite academies. So I don't see that too much of a problem. I think we can put it at 50, and we're going to end up running the same amount of officers. Right now, we're going to put somewhere between 90 and 100 through at this 28 and 30, probably less, probably closer to 90. 2 classes of 50 will still give us 100. We're still going to put the same number through. It will be 1 less academy, but I think the benefits that we're going to get, not fighting over instructors and facilities, is going to outweigh that 1 extra academy that we don't have for people to put their patrol students in.
Anybody put a fiscal number to that? What it's gonna say was.
We said, what, 100,
140.
140, 100 to 100.
We can allocate
40,000,
bond vehicles and
yeah.
other resources that we need to upgrade.
Mr. Chair, I think, my recollection of the meeting minutes was that we were gonna propose to bring it to post council for further discussion, but I don't think we have an action item on it either way. So I think that we need to, whatever the final decision is, if there's more information that's needed, if there's more discussion needed, if post needs to bring things back, I think the post council still has to put it on a future agenda to make a decision about the patrol academy, because our recommended action was to bring it to the post council for further discussion. I don't think we actually have an action item today is my point.
I know if we prolong too much, we get to where we are not able to schedule. We need to have our schedule in. We typically start building our schedule in August.
September's too late.
I think, I don't know, I could be wrong, Terry, but I think that might be an issue with the agenda for today.
What was the actual recommendation from the minutes of your meeting?
A motion to move the proposal to the June post council meeting for further discussion was made and seconded. Motion carries.
So that would all be all that's before us an action item is to adopt.
Is to discuss. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll need
So I think we might,
new action item.
if we need something before then, I think we're gonna have to do a special meeting to take action, because I don't know that we can do it today the way the agenda is written.
Mr. Chairman, just to add to some of the discussion here, I just got an email last night from ISU. They are raising their tuition fee to $4,000 per student to attend there. So you might see an influx in students, and your 2 classes of 50 might be overwhelmed, just as a consideration. So if the smaller agencies that were able to attend ISU before at roughly $1,200 in tuition are going to be now seeing a $4,000 bill. So that might make post a better option for the smaller agencies.
What's Eastern Idaho, you know?
They're 4,200, something like that. I don't know what the other campuses are.
We just looked at sending a recruit to NIC because of lack of facilities and such. Typically, we spend about $3,500 to send an officer down here to Meridian. It was, and this was probably about a year and a half ago, it was $8,000 to send that officer to NIC.
Wow.
But they get over the lake.
Okay. think you're gonna get a decision today, so we'll have to take it back to our respective, associations.
Mr. Chair, so what would be the council's recommendation if this proposal to go to 2 academies is not accepted, if we stay at 3 academies and you're having substandard instruction and we're not able to get instructors to staff it?
Well, that's, I don't know that our associations have all that information. So that's something we need to get out to them. Where we're at.
So, Mr. Chair, would it be reasonable for post to, like, I got a really handy cheat sheet from our meeting today, which helped me substantially. Would it be helpful for maybe post to put together a bulleted list of concerns and things to consider for the sheriffs and the chiefs? And then we probably need to know, if you guys need to know something by August, we probably need to know when we need to schedule a special meeting to make a decision, but maybe it would be helpful for you to be able to send something out to them for consideration.
So you guys are gonna do that, and blast out to the chief and the sheriffs, and here's what we're looking at. Okay, any more discussion? Kind of motion to, approve meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
For discussion, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carries.
And Mr. Chair, I think just to be clear, I would move that we adopt the recommendation from the training subcommittee to have it not support it yet until we have feedback, and then ask for a special council meeting. But to have a discussion.
Discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Standards. Here we go, Deanne.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. So a little bit similarly, our standard subcommittee, well, before I do that, I would, Mr. Chair, make a motion to amend the agenda. There's a typo on sub 7 for the standards under C. It should be vote to adopt recommendations of the standard subcommittee, not training. So I would make that motion to amend the agenda.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with that, our committee did meet and discuss IDAPA rule changes, which at the time we had the meeting had not been yet sent out to our chiefs and sheriffs. So in the meeting, I asked that associations be notified of the IDAPA suggested changes, and then we would have that reported out today at our meeting. I will say that we did move to approve the IDAPA changes because we were worried about, I think, in essence, and correct me if I'm wrong for my committee members, but worried about the timeline on IDAPA, that we need to get it in sooner rather than later. So we didn't want to stall that and not have a decision coming out of this meeting. That being said, though, I think we did have concerns about the feedback from the chiefs and the sheriffs on what they would think of it. And since we didn't have that going into the standards meeting, we definitely wanted to have it for this council meeting. So I think you've seen that. There's some broad changes, I think changes to really a lot of how you hire and the backgrounds and all of that. And so I definitely, we want to hear what you think, but we also, if we had to make a decision today, we wanted to have the ability to do that. And I also, though, since we may have a special meeting on the training subcommittee, I would certainly, I think, and again, not to speak for our committee members, but I think that may be appropriate to have more time for feedback and then the decision at a special meeting. That being said, I do think it's worthy of discussion. I've read over all the feedback that we got since the subcommittee meeting, and I know there's some generalized concerns. I think there's some good points in the feedback, but at this point, I would certainly open it up to the council and staff if you want to add any general thoughts about where we're at after getting the feedback. So Jill, maybe if you have any thoughts.
Think we need to, like, there's a lot of stuff here to go over. So I was reading through some of it, and I think there's some good points that are made here, just in looking at this first page. So I think we should probably, I don't know how you want to do that, how we want to go through it and do.
I will just say, I wish I think our subcommittee, and again, not to speak for them, but it would have been nice to have that at our standards meeting. Because I do think, I don't know that we need to hash out in council before we have the opportunity to do that. And again, Colonel, I don't know if you want to weigh in or any other committee member on that, but that is my opinion, is it would be nice to go back to standards and then come back with a recommendation.
Yeah, I agree. I think part of our problem, like you alluded to, Jan, was we are really up against it with timelines. Because if we don't get these things in here pretty dang soon to LSO, or sorry, to LSO and to DFM, then we're just going to miss out for the whole year. And so I almost wonder if we move forward with the suggested changes and at least get them into the system. And then if we decide to make any alterations, then we go back in, but at least we've started the process with those down at the Capitol. I am a little worried about the timeline.
July 15th, we have a public hearing for any sort of comment for these rules. So really our deadline's the end of July.
Well, as subcommittee chair, I would commit to getting a meeting as soon as possible and having that discussion, but I certainly respect the council if we want to have that discussion today, just walk through concerns and that.
I think it'd be appropriate for you guys to have those and come back with a proposal. Otherwise, we'll just sit here and hash what you're gonna hash already. I'm in agreement with you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I guess the other thing is there a plan for your subcommittee to meet again, maybe after the public hearing in July, to take any feedback from there into account? I know typically that's part of the process as well, so I don't know if you guys have factored that in.
We certainly could. I don't think we have factored that in. I think our next meeting is before September's council meeting.
Okay.
So, but we certainly could. I'm willing to do that. Kelsey can help us with dates and make sure we're tracking.
So you've got the list of, I'm sure you've seen the emails and list of all the concerns.
Yes, and then what was put together for today, I believe is the comprehensive feedback. I have been seeing some of the emails. I don't think I've gotten them all, but if Jill and Kelsey is what we have in our packet, everything that
we've received.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, the other thing, I was at a meeting of the County Juvenile Justice Administrators on Monday, and a number of them did not get those rules for review. So I ended up sending them out on Monday. So I have some additional feedback. And I don't know, Kelsey, if you want me to just send it to you directly for you guys to consider as well. Just some feedback and some questions, I think, so.
So, Mr. Chair, I do think we need a motion to send it back to the subcommittee.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Send this back to the standard subcommittee.
Second.
Motion and second, any more discussion? Third motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All vote same sign. Motion carries. Back to work, Jim.
Happy to do it.
Oh, yeah, I guess we need to approve the meeting minutes. So move. Discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Same sign. Carries. I don't think we're gonna vote on recommendations, all right? Right now.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Only thing I did, this is a small thing, but it will make, it'll touch some people. There's a lot of he's in there.
You can't he, she, it has to be.
How about they?
I think it has to be, I think it has,
Standard writing is.
that's the standard writing is he.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, or DAPA and statute, yeah.
Huh? Good. Good. How progressive.
Shit, you being so sensitive.
Well, I just, I saw. It's not disguising.
Oh.
All right, Jill. Green deputy.
Jeff?
All right, that's me.
Jill and Jeff.
Here we go. All right, I'll try and keep this as simple as I can. At the end of this little presentation, I guess we'll call it, the question for the council is, what do we do with the Marine deputy? And there's several different issues that I'm going to flag along the way where kind of decisions need to be made. So I'm going to dive right into it. In statute in IDAPA, I'll tell you where I'm reading so you can follow along if you'd like, but I'll also try and just be very clear so that you don't necessarily need to have it in front of you. So Idaho Code 195109 sets forth the powers of the post council, our powers. And primary part of those powers is the ability to certify or the ability to decide what's required for basic training to certify a peace officer, and that's in subparagraph 1A. Now there is in subparagraph 1B, it says to establish the requirements of minimum education and training standards for employment as a peace officer in probationary, temporary, part-time, and or emergency positions. So between those two things, the council has the ability to set basic training for what do you need to be a peace officer, and then also to set, if it would like, kind of modified standards for peace officers who are going to be doing part-time, temporary, or emergency kind of work. Then if you go down further, the legislature added later on other kinds of certifications that allow people to act at least in some way as a police officer. So that would be, for example, if you look at subparagraph 7, the council may, upon recommendation of the Juvenile Training Council and pursuant to the requirements of this section, implement minimum basic training and certification standards for juvenile detention officers, juvenile probation officers, and employees of the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections. If you look at 8, state correction officers. If you look at 9, misdemeanor probation officers. So what the statute is setting up is kind of two areas. There's one where you're getting a certification and you can act as a police officer in all of these other, either as just a peace officer, a general peace officer, or in one of these other specialties that the legislature has attached. And then you have this whole part-time idea of kind of free floating out there. All right, now let's look at IDAPA. I will flag, I think where, in my opinion, wires have been crossed is that in IDAPA, the Marine deputy has been treated historically as one of those other kinds of certification, like a misdemeanor probation officer, a corrections officer, a detention officer. And so it kind of has taken on this freestanding ability to exercise law enforcement powers, even if you're not actually a peace officer. The best example of that is in IDAPA 5101, where it talks about mandatory certification. And this is saying, you have to have a certification to act as a police officer. And it says, except as otherwise provided in these rules, no person shall act as a peace officer, comma, Marine deputy, comma, county detention officer, emergency communication officer, juvenile detention officer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So right there, you see from the get-go, IDAPA has separated peace officer from Marine deputy. So in my view, that's a problem because the statute doesn't contemplate and doesn't list out separately Marine deputy like it does everything else in that list for the post council to be able to certify and give at least some form of police powers to that individual. So That's issue number one. I said there were several. So let's go to issue number two. Issue number two is in IDAPA where it talks about Marine deputies. Here's what it says under Marine deputy certifications. Appointment by sheriff. Marine deputies may be appointed by the sheriff of a county for the purpose of enforcing the provisions of Title 67, Chapter 70 Idaho Code, the provisions of IDAPA, blah, 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 city and county ordinances pertaining to watercraft and waterways, and D, a catch-all provision which says enforcement of Idaho Code as assigned by the sheriff. So D is not in any way limited to waterways or anything else. It's just enforcement of Idaho Code as assigned by the sheriff. The definition of Marine deputy in IDAPA says that it's a person, not a peace officer, a person whose primary responsibility is enforcing laws related to the waterways. So in theory, under IDAPA, you could have a Marine deputy who's never been through an academy who is enforcing non-waterway laws as long as it's just a secondary responsibility that was assigned to them by their sheriff. So there's kind of this broad area that I don't think anyone probably ever intended for Marine deputies to be able to do that. So that's issue number two. And let me just make very clear, none of this is because an issue has come up, because anyone's abusing the system, nothing at all like that. This came up because in one of the meetings we were doing with the IDAPA working group, someone mentioned a Marine deputy. I thought it sounded funny, so I asked about it. What the heck is a Marine deputy? And when they told me, then a bunch of like lawyer red flags started going off. So that's where this is coming from. It is not because anyone did anything wrong.
Don't fight lawyers.
Yeah, that's the lesson right there. If you put me on a committee, I'm sorry, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so those are two issues. Here's issue number three. Under Marine deputy in IDAPA, it says minimum basic training. A person desiring Marine deputy certification shall complete the council-approved core curriculum comprising basic law enforcement and Marine specific courses. The issue here is that, to my knowledge, there has never been council-approved core curriculum for a Marine deputy, which means Post has been giving out a bunch of Marine deputy certifications, even though those individuals could not possibly have satisfied the requirements that are set out in IDAPA. So that's, in my mind, the most urgent of issues is that one, that we probably don't want Post giving out certifications if there's no, if someone can't actually satisfy the requirements that are listed in IDAPA. Now, my understanding is, and Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is at one point in time, there was someone was going to bring forth curriculum. When was that?
That was 11 years ago in 2015. Sheriff Getz from Clearwater County had on the agenda and sent like a 38-page packet of proposed curriculum to have the Post Council look at it. And for some reason, we do not know why, and I don't think we can find anything, that it was pulled from the agenda or it got to council.
So Jill has done a deep dive on the historical nature of the Marine deputy, and so that, just emphasizes the point that there has never been post-approved curriculum. There was perhaps maybe an attempt to get one, and for reasons we don't understand, 11 years ago, that was withdrawn before it was presented to the Post Council. And then the last issue that I'll flag, and I won't bother you with reading a bunch of things because this one you have to jump around quite a bit, but as I read the Marine deputy certification, the lapse requirement would apply. So if someone were to get a Marine deputy certification and then they go more than 3 years without acting as a Marine deputy, then their certification would lapse just like any other post certification. However, the Marine deputy certification does not come with any kind of continuing education or training requirement. So if you certify someone as a Marine deputy and they keep working as a Marine deputy, they could in theory work the rest of their life without attending another training at all. There's no requirement for them to do that. So that would be, I think we're up to issue number 4. Okay, so those are the issues that I wanted to raise with the council. And then I think maybe the decision, the primary decision we need to make is, what do we want to do with this kind of writ large Are we interested in trying to salvage the Marine Deputy certification? I think that can be done. It might require a statutory change. We might be able to fit it into that subparagraph B that I was talking about, where the post council can set minimum training and education requirements for part-time positions, if we clearly make it that. So do we want to try and salvage the Marine Deputy position, or are we interested in post getting out of the business of Marine deputies altogether? I personally, as a lot of these issues, I don't have an opinion, because this just doesn't affect me the same way that it does most of you. And so, but I can kind of lay out maybe some pros and cons for you to consider at least. So one thing that we discussed is, the post doesn't really get involved in any other kinds of certifications on top of the basic certification. And what I mean by that is SWAT, for example. There is no SWAT certification that you get from post. And if we were to say, well, we want to start doing a SWAT certification, that comes with a cost, right? An administrative cost on post to have to review that, approve things, all of those things. And then is it really necessary? The exception to that would be canines. Canines are certified. It's kind of a specialty that gets certified separately. I don't know the rationale for that. When I asked Brad, he said it's because dogs are living animals. And then someone pointed out, well, so are horses, but you don't certify those. And then it led to a crazy discussion. So I don't know. I don't know the rationale for that. But
horses don't bite people.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, if they don't bite people. Or maybe they do. My point just being, there are plenty of specialties, quote unquote, in law enforcement that post isn't regulating, isn't governing.
Like motor cops.
Yes. Right. So lots of examples of that. On the flip side, I do understand, and I think kind of the theory behind bringing this forward and making it a thing and making it a certification is because if you look at those counties who are utilizing Marine deputies, it's typically because they have increase in need during the summertime when they need people out on the water. And so it doesn't make sense for them to increase their full-time force to cover that summertime need because they have a bunch of people sitting around during the winter. I think about it a lot like when I worked at Jamba Juice and we were very busy during the summer and not during the winter. See, that's my relation to law enforcement. So there's obviously a benefit to having something where there's, maybe lesser requirements that would allow sheriffs where necessary to bring in individuals who are not otherwise sworn law enforcement to assist and to help out. Now, as we were looking into the practical ramifications of this, because I get like the law is one thing, it's the theory, right? It's the annoying stuff you don't like to hear, but how does this actually affect people on the ground? I think Joe can share some of those numbers in terms of how many individuals are actually applying to Marine Deputy that aren't otherwise certified as a peace officer. Because if they're already certified as a peace officer, most or all of these issues go away. So Jill, do you want to share some of that?
Yeah, so we pulled some numbers. We're having this conversation for 7 individuals in the entire state. I believe they're represented by Kootenai County, Bonner County, Adams County, and Valley County. And there are 7 individuals who hold only a Marine Deputy certification and no other patrol or detention or reserve certification at all. And so what that means is that they have taken this 80-hour academy that is made up primarily of what you do on the boat or boating under the influence. It has no ARCON, it has no firearms, it has no legal, it has no use of force training, it has nothing. It has no effective communication training. It is all about boats. And it is put on by the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec.
So has anybody contacted those sheriffs and say, okay, what exactly did these 7 people do?
We have not. I think we did receive feedback from 2 of them, Bonner and Valley, and Kevin Caperi. I know he was like, well, that sucks, but I'll do whatever you guys decide to do. And I don't remember what, yes, I do, because that's the one I popped off on and started. Yeah, it wasn't the actual sheriff, it was the Marine Deputy Coordinator or Lieutenant, or whoever that was up in his rendition of the history of that was rather interesting on that. And so, just for history's sake, I had a very good relationship with the Marine Deputy cadre when I took over as the regional coordinator in 2013. They were kind of, again, pushed away. I don't know if that was a post thing or a them thing or whatever, but I kind of inserted myself in there and was like, hey, guys, what are we doing here? What can we help you with? Actually got the instructors that were teaching in that to come and teach our water safety class, like, right? Who better to teach water safety than the guys that are on the boat doing this stuff? They came in, they taught our water safety class. They were the ones that, for those of you that have been around long enough, we had a car that you could submerge in the pool. If you guys remember that. And they were like, what the hell are we doing with this car? Like, we're setting these officers up for failure because they're in a nice, non-moving, warm, clear body of water trying to save somebody out of the car. And so they were actually a driving force to get that car removed out of the pool here at Post. That relationship was good. Like, they had their academy every year down at I think the Holiday Inn by the airport. Several times myself and the curriculum manager went down there trying to get the curriculum. We had them talking, we had them trying to turn in curriculum. And then everything just kind of went south and they kind of stopped responding. Audrey can speak to the amount of time that she spent trying to gather the curriculum from these folks. Because the people in the north and the people down here are doing two separate things. It's not even the same program. It's still 80 hours, but it's not the same. So we were focused on trying to standardize that. And it's been crickets, I think, for quite some time. Audrey, if you have.
Yeah, so shortly after I started here, I was tasked with finding the Marine curriculum. So I did work with Randy Herman for a little bit until he retired. They hired an officer, I don't remember what agency he was from, to work with all of the Marine deputies and try to get lesson plans. And I do have a set of lesson plans and PowerPoints for 16 of the 26 classes that are taught. That was, I think, in 2023. We have not received contact from them since. We don't get updates. And quite frankly, the certification exam probably hasn't changed substantially in over a decade.
And I know, like, this, the only reason that we knew that this class was taking place the end of April, 1st of May here at Boise was because we were contacted by Kootenai County, who also usually does a class up there, and they only had one guy that could pass their background. And so they weren't going to do a class for one guy. So they ended up sending that individual down here. And then Rhonda received the roster. Like, it just like shows up. The roster just shows up. Like, we had no idea they were even doing the class. So that's a little bit more of the kind of where we're at with not being involved in this, even though we've made attempts to be involved in it.
And I think part of the confusion of this is that because the wires have been crossed between the statute and IDAPA, it's kind of just no one's really on the same page between Post and the different agencies. And I think for a lot of the agencies, that might be because they utilize full-time certified peace officers for everything on the water. And so in their mind, it's like, you don't need to worry about any of this. It's not an issue. And maybe even they're thinking this isn't even a separate thing you can go get that would allow you to get a police officer. But then there are a few counties, it sounds like, where they do utilize it for that purpose. Another quick thing I'll point out, if you recall the discussion we had several months ago about the 1 year time frame that you have after you get hired, and that after that, we really shouldn't be having people enforce laws as police officers. You know, part of the discussion here, I think, needs to be, regardless of what happens with the Marine Deputy certification, there would still be an ability for a sheriff to bring on someone for that first summer and treat them as a Marine Deputy under whatever program really they want to do it, because they have that year time frame that someone can act as a police officer without being certified by post. It just becomes an issue of if you have a repeat customer. So if you have someone who's not a peace officer who comes in and applies to be a Marine Deputy, does one summer, and then the next summer they come back and want to be a Marine Deputy again, and they still have not gone to the academy and they still have not been certified, that's when you run into the real issue, because now you have someone that's past their 1 year time frame and they're acting only on this Marine Deputy certification, which may have a statutory problem and definitely has there's never been a post-council approved curriculum problem. And so that's where the issue is. And I've read through the feedback that we got that was mentioned, and in my mind, a lot of that is it's kind of frustration with a lack of understanding or a lack of clarity on how any of this works. And so in my opinion, that's the most important thing, is whatever we're going to do, we just need to be very clear, and we need to make sure that it lines up with the statute and that everyone understands it. One of the sheriffs that submitted feedback talked about, you know, one option here would be for post to not do the Marine Deputy certification, and then it would just be up to him or whoever the sheriff is to decide, you know, how am I going to run this program within that 1 year time frame. And then he put in his feedback, he'd like to get a legal opinion about what does that do for the agency in terms of liability, which I think that's very smart of him to do that. It won't be for me, but that's very smart of him to do that. And I think that the council needs to be having those same considerations, right? Is the liability to the council for things like post approving Marine Deputy certifications where they could not possibly have actually satisfied the requirements, the statutory issue. So that's another thing that I think needs to be weighed in all of this discussion.
The liability issue, just for information, out of your 7 folks who are operating under only the Marine Deputy certification, 5 of those are still in that 1 year period. And so the liability is lessened there because they have that 1 year buffer. You have 2 that are outside of that. And so are operating as peace officers just based on this certification.
So do we know, are these guys that aren't certified, are they working with certified officers? We don't know that. Is that there's always two guys on a boat, at least 2 guys on a boat.
I can only guess that they probably are, but I can't 100% speak to that.
But that probably doesn't save us at the end of the day. It's important because my guys are all certified. They're full-time peace officers.
Yeah.
But I don't have that big of a program like Kootenai Valley. They got lots of water to cover.
Well, I'll throw in a 5th issue just for fun. The other way that IDAPA is written, it's kind of interesting because it talks about under the Marine Deputy section, there's a section on peace officer eligibility. And it says a person who within the 3 years immediately preceding application has served as a full-time full certified peace officer shall be eligible for post-Marine Deputy certification without completing the core curriculum, provided he completes required Marine specific courses and passes the Marine Deputy certification examination. So the effect that the current IDAPA has on certified peace officers is that they actually do have to follow this, and they're supposed to be getting this Marine Deputy certification before they act as a Marine Deputy, which could be one of those like unnecessary administrative costs, right? And it goes back to the point I was making about SWAT is it would be like if you added that same language for SWAT here, suddenly every agency's got to be getting all their people on SWAT certified by post. So that, that's on the flip side of maybe this is adding an additional burden that we don't need.
So post doesn't or never has had a Marine Deputy certification.
We've had it, we've actually had it, but according to statute, we're not supposed to be doing it.
I've never had a post-approved curriculum. That's where that was, yeah.
Yes. I mean, we have a list of classes, but it's never come before this body to be blessed and say, okay, move forward. You guys are good to teach this and we'll give you a certification. Like,
And from a legal perspective, there's just no statutory authority to support them having authority to do any type of marine deputy certification.
Sure. That's taken so long for the attorneys to figure this out.
We were a little slow on this, a little bit slow. Sounds like a few days.
It's like several years.
Yeah, several years, so, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know that we have an answer for those 7 people. Well, I guess the answer is they can't do it. But they're under.
that would be probably sending out a notice and explaining it to them and just saying like you have this piece of paper that you've been through the training, but it doesn't mean it, and it's never meant anything, right? Like, so.
So I guess you can continue to do business at your own risk.
Yeah.
Correct. Like, we're not saying you can't do it. We're not giving you a piece of paper saying we certify you. That's the way I read this, is that we're just not saying it's okay.
Well, and given the few number of people, it might make sense before we do something as formal as a letter to just reach out to the agency heads and say, because maybe we'll get lucky and those 2 people are like, nah, I don't want to do the marine deputy thing anymore. I'm going to go get Jamba, for example. So like, it might be worth an informal conversation just to kind of figure out where that is. But I agree that I think if their intent is to continue working as a marine deputy, I would recommend that post do some kind of notification.
Absolutely.
Probably both to the agency head and to the individual that, hey, this probably actually should not have been issued, this certification. And then ideally at that point, we would have some kind of explanation about what is post doing about this, right? Like, is there going to be a path forward, or is the message, we're just scrapping the marine deputy thing altogether and you're on your own?
July 1.
Yeah. And I will get, the other part of this is just, if we, no matter what we decide here today and vote on, it's not going to have really an immediate effect. I mean, other than my hope would be that the post stops issuing these because no one can satisfy the requirements, right? Like that's pretty clear. But it's not like we can take a vote today that's going to change the statute or that's going to immediately change IDAPA. So in that sense, this is not maybe as urgent. I think the most urgent thing, as I said, is just making sure everyone understands and everyone is clear on the fact that post will not be issuing these moving forward, at least until there's a post council approved curriculum. And that kind of buys us time to have the broader discussion about what do we want to do with the marine deputy program altogether. So if we're not ready to have that discussion now, I don't think it's absolutely essential that we have that today. I think everyone can kind of be thinking about it and we can, figure it out. But for now, there shouldn't be any marine deputy certifications going out regardless.
Does this affect any chiefs at all?
Sure. They actually can't appoint marine deputies, only sheriffs.
That's right, it comes from sheriff. Okay. Clear as mud.
That's something you guys can help us with the letter, the language.
Oh, yes. I can absolutely draft some language for you.
Perfect.
Hey, real quick, Jeff, can you answer this? Is there issues right now with current marine, those guys that are only certified as marine deputies doing what they're doing out on the water? My question is we don't have that ability, but our officers work with those marine deputies on a regular basis. My concern is the fallout from our officers working with the county Marine deputies that may not have,
Armed peace officers.
that aren't peace officers, yeah. I don't want my guys getting jammed up in a bad situation.
That's very smart of you. I would say,
Thank you, that's the first. 7 months as chief, so I appreciate it. I'm starting to get an upward trend here.
what I would say is I would advise that you discuss that with your legal counsel. Because you don't want me giving you legal advice here in public.
There's donuts left over there.
I'll just say generally this. As long as they're within that 1 year time frame, then everything's fine because they're still acting under the agency head and we're totally fine. If they're outside of that 1 year time frame and they're still acting as a Marine deputy, it gets messy. It gets messy because there could be litigation over whether that Marine deputy certification is lawful at all. And, they could argue on the other side that post council did in fact have the statutory authority to give it. And so they are certified and under IDAPA, they can do just about anything with just that Marine deputy certification. And so I can't give you a definitive answer on, is it going to jam up your people? I would generally say that, you and your agency are not going to be held liable for something that someone else does. Now, what effect that might have on prosecuting a case, if you're investigating a criminal case and one of them is involved in that investigation, and I think Jan brought up some of those concerns when we were having the talk about the 1 year thing. Similar concerns here, right? Like, should this person be acting as a police officer? And there's definitely liability. Most of the liability I'm aware of would be to the criminal evidence, to potential criminal liability for the individuals that are doing it and or allowing it to happen. And then potential civil liability if something does go wrong, use of force or something. I would not want to be the attorney of the agency who a Marine deputy has used force on someone. Let's put it that way.
They only work 3 months out of the year, so they got 4 years to get this done.
Yeah.
We found out that's not true. Yesterday.
Okay, great discussion. Any more discussion? Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, is there any, I'm more than happy to keep running with this. I'm happy to keep working with Jill. Is there any direction that you would like us to go? Do you want us to just hold? Do you want us to explore options for salvaging this? Do you want us to? We're open to whatever.
I was thinking about it. The only way to salvage it is to put Marine deputy in the statute.
So that would be one way, is you could do it separately as it's treated in IDAPA. I mean, in theory, another way is if you wanted, you could change IDAPA to do a Marine deputy certification kind of on top of the peace officer thing. Again, that's not a typical thing that post would do, but if that's what we wanted to do, we could do that. I would be hesitant without a statutory change to keep the program as it's currently set up. Maybe a third option would be we could look at using the post council's power under that subparagraph B, where you can set different minimum training and standards for a part-time officer. And maybe the answer is a more robust academy, if you will, for Marine deputies, and that goes into IDAPA and you put it under that 1B. That's another option. I think my biggest concern, and my guess is their biggest concern with that one, is just the administrative resources that it's going to take. We're talking about going down to 2 classes instead of 3, and so adding a whole different kind of academy for 7 people is perhaps not worth it.
Well, I'm just gonna chime in here too. We have not the staff at all for curriculum. I've got 3 people that work in my curriculum department, and it is right now, with everything going on, it is not functional.
Sure.
And adding another discipline in there we can do it, but you're gonna give up ECO or detention or patrol to do it. So.
Subcommittee membership. I don't think anybody's doing a bad job, but we want to discuss it. Seems like we have actually agree on a training subcommittee that just don't have anybody in a dog in the fight, kind of, for patrol and detention.
Yeah, so I think we've had this conversation. I mean, several months ago, a year ago, I expressed some concerns that we were making, I think at the time, maybe the chief couldn't be there, one of the chiefs couldn't be there, and it was just Bree and I in a training subcommittee. And they were patrol and detention changes that were really not appropriate for us to be considering or making. And so at that point, Sean was added to the training subcommittee. I mean, I certainly have a dog in the fight in terms of juvenile training because we coordinate juvenile training for all of the juvenile disciplines, not just corrections. And so we have a dog in the fight there, but the large majority of what is coming through is patrol and detention type issues. And so I think that was kind of where we landed on the concern.
So would it feelings be heard if we move some people around?
No?
So we're looking at maybe putting Jason and Jeff on the training committee and putting you and Bree on the standards subcommittee. So you can spend a lot of time with Gina.
That's probably a deal breaker.
No, that is just fine. I don't think, I mean, my guess is Bree won't have any heartburn on that either. I would just ask if you do have juvenile stuff come to you that I'd be an invited guest and I would be involved. So.
Did you get that, Jason?
Got it.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chair, are they swapping or do we have chiefs and sheriff on our standard subcommittee?
No, you actually don't. You have.
Yeah,
the colonel. You have.
We have the colonel, which again, appreciate it very much. I do feel this,
Right.
Mr. Chair, I feel the same way that having a chief and a sheriff is certainly helpful. I rely on them greatly, and I think the colonel is able to provide a lot of background for everything I would need. But again, I feel like that they should have a voice, or I would like them to have a voice on my subcommittee if possible.
We don't have anybody left.
You could have one, a chief or a sheriff. You could make that happen.
So would somebody be doing two subcommittees assignments?
You could do it that way.
Probably standard. There you go. He's right here.
Straight.
Up the street.
Thank you.
Plenty of time.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yes, thank you.
A hole in the fence so he can just walk through.
All right.
We need to make that.
It is an action item. I thought I got to make those changes for the road.
I don't know. I'm just going off of how we had it on the agenda. If not, no big deal.
That can point you to anywhere in Washington County.
Sure.
That's what I was, that's what I was, that's what I took over.
Mr. Chair.
Committees.
Maybe just to be on the safe side, we
Okay.
should approve, again, that's.
I make a motion that we approve the chairman's decision to change the subject.
Second.
Board discussion. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Jill,
Sure.
ECO online.
ECO online, we would like to propose that we remove the ECO Online Academy. Just not have it anymore. Our enrollments are very low. And you're giving the same certification for two different sets of curriculum. So you're doing the 80-hour dispatch academy, the butt in seat academy, right? And a 40-hour online academy, and we're issuing the same certification.
Which makes no sense.
Which makes no sense to me. Brad did talk to the PSAP committee and he said they would love it if we got rid of it. They're not super excited about it. Another point to make is that we offer a dispatch academy really in every corner of the state. NIC is doing dispatch academies. The new CEI over in the eastern side of the state in Idaho Falls is doing it. And then in our region here, we have actually Post does ours, and then Ada County does one. So there's a plethora of options for folks to attend a dispatch academy.
Make a motion.
Second.
A second to remove the academy. For discussion. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 11, I'm assuming you're Elizabeth Edwards? Roll call. A new financial person?
I am. You want me to stand up front? Okay. So it says I'm Elizabeth Edwards on there, but I just got married and my name was changed officially with the state yesterday. So it's Ward now. So if you see it come across as Ward, that's still me. I am the budget administrator for all of ISP across the state and all departments. And typically I have a more in-depth knowledge of what's going on within the budget, but when Lori was here, she took main point on that. And so our department is just kind of learning the budget in Post, and by next year we'll be much more knowledgeable. We did just put this, ran this report for you guys for the first time last week. And I found out yesterday afternoon that I'm supposed to do a presentation, so you'll just have to hang in here with me. So Chairman and council members, it's nice to meet you. Some of you I have met in person that are here, and some are names I know, but faces I have not seen before. I do not have a presentation for you here.
To get it up there.
Okay. Okay. The format is still the same as you've seen before in past years. We haven't adjusted anything in that. But we are open to suggestions. If there's things that you would like to see that you're not seeing here, if there's information you don't need that just clutters it up that you'd rather not see here, feel free to reach out. Happy to organize it in whatever fashion makes sense and it is the most beneficial to your decision making. I did touch base. We're not there yet with where the revenue comes from, but liquor being a part of revenue. I'll just kind of jump ahead a little bit here. With the recent new laws that came out this year during session, there was an adjustment to the amount that's going to come in for liquor moving forward. The best estimate we've seen so far from counties and cities is that there will be a reduction of about 35,000 in revenue to Post from the liquor. So that will be one key point moving forward in the next fiscal year to make note of.
By the numbers up. And show.
That's the cash balances and you. There we go. Okay. So the first page here is our dedicated fund cash balances. These run every year from July 1st of the fiscal year to April 30th. So that's where the line's been drawn on this report. That first column you'll see there is the primary training fund. The beginning cash balance was $665,760. Prior year encumbrances were $10,281, for a total of free fund cash balance of $655,478. The revenues for that period were $4,059,000, including $2,365,000 in from those fines, which is the bulk of the revenue. Operating expenses came in so far at $4,010,000. And that plus the total accruals, which is up above at the top of the sheet under the beginning free fund balance. So the accruals plus the total expenses there are removed from the revenue, leaving a cash balance of $600,178, with $55,300 negative net change in cash standing. For your right-hand column is the misdemeanor probation fund. Cash balance started at $502,808 with misdemeanor probation fee revenue of $60,843. Expenses at $48,413 leave an ending free fund cash balance of $515,239, which is an increase to net position of $12,430. The second page is basically going to take all that information we just looked at on the first page and put it into a graph format to allow you to see the revenue streams in proportion to each other. The top one is the pie graph is just for this fiscal year. So that's all the revenue flows and how they relate to each other for just this period of time, the July 1st to April 30th. The fine and fee revenues to the right is going to compare those revenues in total on a year-to-year basis, starting with FY19. And then the charts down below in the blue, red, and green, they're going to be this year's revenues broken down in a year comparison from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, just in each of those categories. So in the $15 fees, there was an increase of 2.4% in the amount of revenue received this year versus this time last year. There was an increase of 4.6% in court fees, 4.6%, and an increase of 3.37% in misdemeanor probation fees. The final page is that, did this end up at the end? Do you just have 2 pages on there? Oh, it's okay. Okay. Year-end projections. So the top piece is going to be cash related only. Year-end projections with the anything anticipated through the end of the year. We're getting only a couple months out, so the ending free fund balance is estimated to go down a little bit to $545,233 in the primary fund. And down only a little bit in the misdemeanor fund at $511,205. The bottom area there, after you see the overshort kind of blue line there, below that, we leave the cash and we move to budget appropriation. So this is going to be based on what the state has authorized us to spend for the year and what we've spent so far. We still have $744,000 remaining in appropriation for the primary fund, which you can see does not align with cash. So while the state would allow us to spend more money this year, we don't. We are still bound by the cash limits that are in there. And then, that's pretty much it.
Any questions for Elizabeth? Thank you. That's your day.
Thank you.
Brings us to the end of our normal order of business. What? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Joe. On my agenda, the printed off.
Okay. I have kind of an update. I did mine probably a little bit differently than Brad does, and I broke mine down by section throughout all of our different areas of post, starting with finance. As you all know, Lori retired in March. Our entire organization has been on the struggle bus since her departure. And that's to include ISP, FSO. Like I know you just heard from Lisbeth, and it's been rough. We're all attempting to get a handle on our massive number of financial tasks that Lori used to do. I really had no idea we spent so much money on EVOC vehicle maintenance. My goodness. Jen Henninger, who is our only financial person left over there, has really stepped up to the plate. And although she's been drinking out of a fire hose pretty much, she's getting our invoices processed and our bills paid over there for us. She's kind of our go-to since Lori's been gone. Regions on April 30th, regional manager, training manager Jeff Sklar retired after 11 years post. Rhonda Wallace, who's here with us today, was promoted to the regional training manager, and we are looking to fill her position, interviewing 7 people on June 15th. In February, the regional team did law enforcement program assessments on CEI and ISU. CEI passed with flying colors and ISU did not, and they were set for reassessment at the end of May. The end of May came and ISU passed their assessment. CSI was up for their 2-year assessment, and it was a catastrophic failure at CSI. They'll be reassessed at the end of August, and in the meantime, Rhonda continues to run around with her hair on fire without a second person to help her. Facilities on May 22nd, our post facilities manager, Tammy Kelly, retired after 29 years of post. This has probably been, although Lori and Jeff were terrible, this Tammy has really, like, this has been very difficult for us because not only did Tammy schedule all the dorms and the facilities, as she processed every aspect of a contract, with the exception of assigning it a contract number for all of our instructors and all of our graders, role players, all of that stuff. No one person should have ever been doing all of that stuff. So we have taken her job duties and farmed them out to several of our remaining staff members. And I'm currently looking at reclassifying her job. She's a TRS 2, so a technical record specialist 2. And it doesn't even scratch the surface of the job duties that she has done for the last 29 years. So we're looking at reworking that into something that's more fitting for what that job actually does. Curriculum, our 3-person curriculum team continues to try and recruit folks to assist with writing and updating curriculum. We did a 6th, that may have been the 7th recruitment to try to hire a 4th person, but it again produced negative results. The offer we extended to the candidate was declined. IDLA, who is the folks that kind of run our e-learning, recently informed us, because they're a state-run thing, So they recently informed us that their budget has been cut, and as of 2027, they will no longer be able to support Post. This means our e-learning portal will more than likely go away. Audrey and Dustin have been researching alternative ways to continue with the portal, but costs are about 4 to 5 times more than what we were paying for IDLA. So from about 5,000 to 6,000, upwards of 20,000 to 30,000 a year is what we're looking at. So there may or may not be a portal, an e-learning portal. Certifications, basic certifications are caught up, so that's some good news. But we continue to get farther and farther behind on the higher levels. Currently, we're about 10 months behind. Sandy, who is our lone person that's working on those, she just finished up July of 2025. And I can only guess that will continue to get farther behind as we progress through this, and everybody has taken on additional duties with the departure of our 3 staff members. Cass, I don't think, has opened her own emails or answered any of her own emails since Tammy left, because she's been dealing with scheduling issues of dorms and facilities. I was working with our own HR department, and we discovered 2 part-time positions still on our books here at Post. So where they came from, one of them was our former OPR investigator, Mike Dillon. So he was a part-time guy. Apparently, when we hired Dan, we created another part-time position to hire Dan. And then Dan went from a full-time or a part-time to a full-time position. And instead of taking that part-time position, this was in 2020, instead of taking that part-time position and turning it into a full-time position, they just created a whole new full-time position for Dan. So that left these 2 part-time positions that have been sitting over there that nobody really knew about. Lori found them before she left, and we're finally doing something with them. So we took one of them, and we're recruiting for a TRS-2 part-time, which is what Cass's people, and to try to get someone in there to get these higher level certifications caught up.
So Jill, sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. So they were funded, those 2 were
But
funded,
so-
not filled?
So if we can afford them, we can fill them, is the way. They're not a funded,
Fully funded.
thing, right? So that's why we're only doing one. It's the way this position is, it's about, I think, $20,000 a year, because it's only a 19-hour-a-week situation. So Brad did approve for one of those. And so we are recruiting for that. Right now, it's supposed to close today. Did you get a hold of her? And she's going to extend it for an additional week to see if we can get some more folks in that. It's a non-benefited part-time position. So maybe a little bit of relief in sight for the higher levels. Our academy training section is the one area that's functioning, although not at a high level. The rest of our areas, I think we're kind of in survival mode. We're starting to see burnout, and we already kind of talked about this on several of our academy instructors, and oftentimes have to switch classes around or teach them ourselves because instructors are not available. Been faced with thousands of dollars of EVOC vehicle repairs lately. Training coordinators, these guys are amazing. They've been able to save us quite a bit of money by purchasing ammunition and targets from different vendors than we were in the past. So that's been really good. This is really cool. You guys will like this. We've amped up our PT program. Okay, so we've had patrol and detention here, and we've taken them together, split them into 3 groups. So, and they go to each section of PT every week. So we have one group that does swimming. We have one group that is in the weight room, and we have a cardio functional fitness day. So they just rotate through each group each week. Everybody gets one of those days each week. Here's the cool part. When Detention 101, who's the class that actually graduates tomorrow, they had 7 people on day 1 that failed the PRT. With all of this PT stuff that we've changed around last week, every single one of them passed, and one gal even improved her run time by 4 minutes. Wow. Yes. So we're pretty excited about that. And even better, we've had no reported injuries at all. We are making some future plans to change the way we're executing our graduations and make it a little bit more about the students and their accomplishments and less about who's presenting the certificates to them. So, OPR, in 2026 thus far, Dan has opened 21 new cases, and we've had, of the sort of decerts, there's been 26 that have actually been decertified. And keep in mind, a lot of these are open from previous times. A couple trends that he's seen, a couple in background investigations over the last 2 years. Post has seen a decrease in investigations overall, which is fantastic. However, many of the investigations open could have been avoided if a comprehensive background investigation was completed and the hiring agency maintained rational hiring standards. Several agencies have been hiring unqualified people, and as a result, several investigations have been initiated into those people and the agency personnel certifying that the background investigations were completed, which is sad. And with that, when we implemented the mandatory training requirement for MTRS, those mandatory 24 hours with the legal and the firearms ARCON and EVOC in 2023, we've seen an increase in senior level officers falsifying or forging training records. And then submitting those to Post, which of course is a felony. So not cool. So that is, I wanted you guys to know all that stuff. So does anyone have any questions?
Questions for Jill? Excuse me. Okay, thank you, Jill. I've got some good news.
No, not good stuff.
Okay. Now we've passed for a regular order of business. Right, do you want this back? We have a need to go into executive session, so. We'll entertain that motion.
Second. I'll make the motion to leave the executive session second.
Okay, do I identify the section that also?
Oh, yeah, yes. So,
I think you can go. I think you have to go.
Executive session pursuant to Chat 74206 subsection 1B. Consider personnel matter.
second.
Yes.
For the motion and second, we have to have a roll call vote. Yes.
Teresa Chair.
Yes.
Jack Nancy.
Yes.
Jason Davis.
Yes.
Ashley Dow. Yes. Gardner.
Bill?
Yes.
Deb Gardner.
Yes.
Jeff McEwen.
Yes.
Jeff Knight.
Yes.
Anthony Dollinger.
Yes.
Justin Williams.
Yes.
And can we just make sure that we're not live streaming to the public?
Yeah.
Yes.
Back on the record? Okay. Entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Make that motion.
Second.
Just a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. I'll pick another motion.
Make the motion, that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Everybody have a good summer.